What's up, pod pals? It's your buddy Adam, and you are checking out Podcasting Business School, the show where I teach podcasters how to love their show like a hobby and build it like a business. And today I'm bringing on one of my favorite pod pals, one of my business building buds, Jan Ditchfield from the No BS Business School podcast. We're going to be talking about some tips for podcasters that want to increase their sales conversion rates. Very important in business. Jan Ditchfield, my pod pal, how's it going?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm awesome. I'm excited to have you back. People that listen to the show know I don't have a whole lot of guests. I rarely have anybody back more than once. So I want everybody that's like an OG listener to the show, that should be a warning sign. Like, this is going to be a great conversation. So no pressure at all, Jan. All right.
Good. We start off with my phone crashing to the ground. So I muted it, but apparently it still wants to participate. So I'm really honored to be here again. So thank you so much for asking me back.
Well, you're somebody, you have so much experience, period, in business, but you are very skilled in the art of relationship building and communication and sales. And that's something like, that's a place I still want to grow. And I market myself as like the non-salesy sales guy, but honestly, I have a lot of insecurities about going after a sale, like still. And so that's something I realize. And I'm like, all right, I still need to level up my skill set. Will I ever be the Wolf of Wall Street smile and dial guy? I don't really see that ever happening. That's just not my personality. But if I get in a little uncomfortable situation and I'm like, I need to, I want to go this way and run and hide, but I need to actually address this head on. So that's why I'm bringing in somebody like yourself to really be able to coach all of us around this. Is that making sense so far?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really normal to be, uncomfortable with the idea of selling, and it's because it's been set up for so long, with the image being the Wolf of Wall Street. Like, we think about boiler room immediately when we think about sales, and or the ABC model, right? Always be closing, and that's where our brains go when we hear sales, instead of putting it into a happier state, which has to do with serving and helping and making people's lives better and enriching people in a really meaningful way, which is what sales truly is.
Yeah. So let's just dive on in. Like, all my people know I talk about you all the time and all the cool stuff that you do. So just go back to various episodes for references to Jan and her awesomeness. But like, I want to dig in. And the first question I've got is like sales calls, discovery calls, like just that terminology itself. Should we just call it a sales call? Is that going to help? Or do you like the term discovery call? Do you have a preference when we, put a call to action out there on our show for people to sign up for something like this? Is one better than the other, or what do you think?
They're actually different. So that's a really great question, because a discovery call is different than a sales call in my mind. And I think they have a different purpose behind them and a different strategy behind them and a different way of conducting them. So I know a lot of the time now, especially in the online space, I see people renaming things a lot. So it's like, we're going to call this a, I help statement. And I'm like, that's actually a value proposition. And we're going to call this as something else. And I'm like, that's actually a positioning statement. And when I think about renaming things, I often think what happens is it doesn't give us the chance to master and respect the art way the art was created originally for us to use it. And so with a discovery call, it really is an art form. Like, it isn't something where you get on and you should be selling. You shouldn't actually be selling when you're on a discovery call. It is all about relationship building and learning to listen to people effectively. When you're on a sales call, sell. Like, that's what you're there for. You're there to close. That's the purpose of what it's doing. But discovery is exactly what that says. Are you a good fit for me? Am I a good fit for you? Can I help your problem? Do I want to work with you? We're just having a conversation at this point.
Okay. Just that definition in and of itself, I just got my money's worth out of this episode. So that's awesome. Now let's dive down the discovery call rabbit hole. And because I've been doing a ton of these, and I'm doing business and good things are happening, but sometimes I have a hard time reverse engineering and going, why did that happen? Why was that a successful situation that led to a sale? So in my mind, I kind of divide the discovery calls into like the onboarding optimization, like getting the right people to participate in them. That's important. The actual execution. And then if there is a sales opportunity, how do we, optimize that situation? So when it comes to like the onboarding optimization, do you have any thoughts around making sure the right people sign up for a discovery call? Or how do we, another way of looking at how do we weed out the people that would not be a good fit for our discovery call?
Yeah, 100%. Definitely, definitely. When the first thing you want to think about when you're doing a discovery call is, again, this is about us as the business owner being able to pre-qualify if somebody is the right fit for us to work with. And so a lot of the time now when we get them on the phone, we're going to go into their problem. But before that, we really want to figure out, is this the right person for me? And also, do I really want to work with this person? And that helps with a lot of the uncomfortable parts of getting on a call and being like, oh, I can help you, but I don't want to help you. And so, which happens, it's happened to all of us, and we kind of have to try to back our way out of that. So, how we set up the onboarding matters. And I think the easiest way to do it is using your friend that you love so much, but the good old Calendly link, and setting up your calls right from there. And in it, having very clear questions that you're asking people to give you information on before they can book with you. And one of them is, of course, name, social media. You also want to ask the question, how can I help you? Like, what is it you want to talk to me about? So you're not walking in cold to your discovery call, which is the worst feeling, because you get in and you're like, who are you and why do you want to talk to me? You should know that information beforehand so you can do your due diligence before you get on the call with them, which are things that I'll talk about. One tactic, though, that I've been looking into more and more, and I'm starting to lean into the idea of it being something we should consider, is actually using discovery calls, and setting them up to be something that's paid before someone can get on the phone with you. So they actually have to pay to have this phone call, so that you are getting rid of that free coaching call that tends to happen with a lot of people off the bat. And you are pre qualifying the right people to work with you with a very low paid price point. So you can book with me, it's $25. And if you decide not to move forward, I'll give you your money back. If you decide you want to move forward, we'll accredit it to whatever it is that you're coming to work with me with. But it's an
Interesting.
immediate qualifier. Like, immediately you're going to clear out the people who aren't serious about talking to you.
Okay. I like that quite a bit, just because it's no risk to them. Like, they can, if they don't work with you, money back. If they do work with you, it's applied. That way they shouldn't hopefully view it as, I'm paying for this specific time with Jan, but it's an investment to kind of hold your spot, to let Jan know that you're serious.
Yeah.
So, okay, I like this. What else do we got as far as, I mean, do you feel like one of the questions that I added into my discovery call is like, if I'm able to help you solve your problem that we're going to work on, what is your budget that you would be willing to invest in solving this? And I give them some different price ranges. And it seems like the people that fill that out tend to be people that end up hiring me, because they kind of have a better idea. So any thoughts around that terminology itself, or anything else that we should be adding in there that will help pre-qualify?
I think, again, it's going to depend on where you're trying to lead people to. So I like the idea of being very upfront about pricing. I've never been somebody that's like, oh, hide it away and we'll wait till the right moment to spring it on somebody. I think you should be honest right from the start, because if someone can't afford to work with you, don't waste their time and don't waste your time. Like, you can move them somewhere else. You can, if someone else who might be a better fit, you have free alternatives that you can, direct them there instead. Help them out still. One of the things that I sometimes feel there might be a bit of a limitation with, of saying, what's your price point, is that people will then say, well, I've already predetermined that you're only worth working with at this price, instead of allowing you the opportunity to determine where you think you should put them in your own offer suite. So coming in, instead saying, like, Adam, you came to me and I'd be like, here, let's talk about your problem. Let's talk about what it is. And I'm going to tell you what I do. And then I'm going to suggest to you where I think you would be best suited to work with me. And then we'll take it from there.
Okay.
And that way you kind of are aligning them to where they're going to get the maximum result. And more than just saying, okay, well, they only want to spend $1,000 with me, so that's limiting how I can help them. It's
Okay.
just a little bit of reframing on the thought of it.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. Now, my next question is, what if Mr. Wrong client signs up and you see that and the alarm bells are going off? How do we back out of this situation? I really, 'cause I'm that guy. I feel bad for people. I'm like, oh, I'll just give them some love and send them on their way. But that can add up. If you're doing, 30-minute sessions, or even 15-minute sessions, like, that's going to add up on your calendar pretty quick. So I need a magical Jan phrase that I could implement and have a kind email and we part as friends. Like I need the breakup email for people that sign up that are not a great fit. What do we do, Jan?
So I'm going to give you a couple of suggestions because I have some friendly tactics on this of how to be able to get out of situations that you're not too happy you got yourself into. One of the things I think is really important to know first before you even move into like, how do I gently break up with someone before we start dating, is making sure you've captured the information you need to research who you're talking to before you start talking to them. And this is a key thing that most people miss in any form of discovery call or any form of lead qualification is the researching part. So we walk in cold into meetings, or we'll see something on our calendar and we'll be like, okay, well, I'll just wing it. I'm not going to prepare for it. Instead of saying in those questions in my onboarding process, I'm going to make sure I'm asking the things like website, LinkedIn, your social media. I want your full name. I want your full email address so that I can jump over to my buddy Google and take a deep dive on who you are before we move forward with this. So in those deep dives, sometimes that's when you're going to figure out, uh-oh, this is probably not the right fit. And I've had that happen. I had an uh-oh book with me and I was like, how do I get gently out of this call? So here's two little tactics for it.
All right.
Here's the uh-oh before you actually get on the call with them. And then I'm going to do the uh-oh when you're actually face-to-face with them.
Okay.
So there's a tactic that I really like using, and I think that all business owners should do it, especially if you are solopreneurs or you're a small business owner with a very small team. And that is setting up a dummy service email account. So you have an email account that you pay for, it's like $30 a year. It's not that expensive, but it comes out as, Team Shibely, or it's like, there's somebody's name on there, Mark from Podcasting Business School, something like that with a generic email signature. If someone signs up for you on your calendar that you're like, I really don't want to talk to them, but I don't want to be the bad guy that emails and says, I don't think we're the right fit, get Mark to do the emailing for you. You're still behind there typing the email up. You can, and I also do tell you right now, Chat GPT is my best friend when it comes to writing very kind, no thank you emails, because I didn't write it. A computer wrote it for me. So I have no guilt in this. And then turn it and place it and send it out from Mark. And it comes from there because it diffuses the situation really quickly and it's not your name attached to it. So people, when we tend to see service emails, we think there's a team. We don't know any better. We're just like, it's a team. This is the way it goes. So some wording that you can use in an email like that could include saying things like, I saw you jumped on my calendar to book with me and I was really excited about it, but or Mark, Adam was really excited about it because Mark's writing the email. But unfortunately at this time, he doesn't have any more capacity right now. So I'm going to have to reschedule this to a different date. And unfortunately, the earliest date I can get you out is going to be 6 months. If that's too far, here are some resources and some recommendations of places that might be able to help you sooner. You're still helping, you're still providing, refer them somewhere else. To a competitor is okay, but place them kind of out where they're not in your zone in a kind way. I've had it happen where I've had people come in and I've just emailed back and just, I really want to be clear that I serve this specific niche. And I noticed that you were in a different niche. I don't think I'm probably going to be the best person to help you. While I think what you're doing is fantastic, here are some names that would be probably better served for you. And just kind of let it go from there and just decline the email from that. And so you turn the meeting down and it's just a friendly letdown is what it is.
Nice. I like that. So all you out there, if you get an email from Mark the a-hole at podcastingbusiness.school, that's the breakup email, y'all.
It's all Jan's fault.
maybe like Mark McBreakup or something like that. Like I'll come up with a great little name. Anyway, okay. So that is super helpful. Now, what about if we're on the call and you realize I got to pump my brakes and get the heck out of this? What do we do then?
So one of the easiest ways to do it, quite honestly, is inflating your prices. And I find that that's happened. It works the most effectively because you, again, are not necessarily saying something that's harmful or hurtful to the person, but by saying, yeah, I'd love to work with you, or I'll let you know the process. It's this much money to work with me. And you'll be able to tell immediately when you say a price that is out of the price point for that person. It's just going to stop the conversation and in a way, again, that's not offensive. So you don't need to say, I really don't think we're the right fit. I don't think I can help you. You can say things like that, definitely. But if you are trying to get out of it in a more gentle manner, inflate your prices and just
Yep.
say, if it's typically 2,000 to work with you, yeah, we can get started at 6,000 to sign with me and I need 50% of it up front. And if they go, great, no problem. Well, maybe you weren't super happy you had to work with them, but you're going to be super happy they paid you that much money. So it's kind of a win-win on either side for you. And again, give them referrals to other places to go.
Yeah.
The best thing to do in building any kind of sales relationship is helping them, even if it's not you personally that's going to benefit financially from that help.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe you got some awesome affiliate partnerships or whatever, and you can still benefit a little bit financially. And that wouldn't be a bad idea to have like a safety net affiliate referral, doc ready to go, and you can send those out as a resource. And that's, yeah, that would be something I would definitely consider. So let's keep going down this middle section here, that the execution of the discovery call. What are some just best practices? Like, what does the format look like? What kind of format do you like? What are the different components of a really solid discovery session?
Yeah, everybody can kind of runs them differently. I think for me, I tend to hold mine to be about 15 to 20 minutes. 30 minutes, we start weeding into the dangerous territory of coaching calls at that point. So people start to come in and they're going to come in with lists of questions and start asking you, and you start coaching and they go, thank you. And then you're like, ugh, what did I just do there? I totally missed the opportunity, right? So I think setting a timeline on it is really important. I think as well, being very clear in all of your communication that this is an opportunity to learn about what it is that you do in your business and to see if this person is the right fit for you and you're the right fit for them. Be clear. Don't use things like coaching call or free session or anything like that. Be upfront. We're having a conversation about whether I can help you or not. This is what we're doing. So come in with your research. That's going to be my first thing. Know who you're talking to, go to Google, look it up, find out the information you need, do a deep dive on their website, do a deep dive into if they have podcasts, listen to a couple of those, get a really good idea of who you're talking to so you can help control that conversation in your favor once you're face to face. From there, you're going to set your agenda. So I think it's really important to control the conversation the minute you get online. So I like to open up and say, oh, it's so nice to meet you. Like, Adam, it's so great to see you here. And it's been nice. I see that you've been in my world for a bit. Tell me a little bit, like, how did you find out about me? And it's a really nice way for them to start talking. Usually with me, it's my podcast, usually is where everyone's like, I listen to your podcast. And it's just a nice kind of diffusing moment. So you can talk a little bit. What was your favorite episode? Or, oh, it's so great you listen, and have a bit of a conversation. And then from there, I always like to lead into that. How can I help you today? And from it sets up the person to immediately walk in and start talking about the problem. How can I help you? What is it that you need help with? And then how can I help that? So understanding again that the best discovery calls are going to come from conversation and not from coaching is the thing that we need to realize again on our end, but allowing people to start to unload and unpack the things that they're struggling with. So we're listening for the cues for when we can jump in and offer opportunities to support. So you come in, you see me, you're like, Jan, I'm having a lot of trouble being able to scale this offer. I'd like to sell it more often, and I'm like, okay, well, what have you done so far? And you're like, well, I did an email sequence and I did this. And I'm like, okay, well, those are great starts. What I think I could help you with is be able to understand how to put together a comprehensive campaign strategy around that. And so I'm leaning into then let's have a conversation about what that looks like, how that would look, how it would best fit in with you. And now it's leading into a sales call without it sounding like you're selling, instead of having that boiler room conversation, right? That people are like, it's this much money. And if you close that laptop lid, the price is going to go up, because
Yeah.
we've all heard those stories. Everyone's heard those stories. And instead just lead it with at the end, this is what my offer is. This is where I think you would best fit in my world and my community. This is how much it costs to do it. They'll have some questions about it. And you say, great, there's no problem. I'm going to let you think. There's no pressure. That's how I love ending my calls. There's no pressure from me. If you're not comfortable or you don't think this is the time, that's okay. I just love if you stayed in my world. And then follow up with an email, letting people know. But again, put a timeline on it, because we need to still give deadlines on decisions. Otherwise, people will sit on a fence forever. So still say, I'd love to be able to hear from you by Friday, or I'll follow up with you on Friday. And if you have made your mind up by then, that's great. We can move forward. If it's not the right time for you, don't worry about that. I'll circle back to you as well. So keeping the conversation naturally. Don't script yourself. Don't sound like you're, the Wolf of Wall Street. Let people just make a decision about, you know, are you really going to be able to help me or not? You actually do calls really, really well, Adam. Like you closed me. I think you do a really great discovery call. So
Well, uh, I don't, that's the thing though. Like I don't the discovery call and the closing of sales, like up until recently, I was kind of always surprised, like, wow, they want to do business with me. That's weird, you know? But like over the past probably like 2 years, that's changed where I'm like, I know what I'm doing. I'm getting great results with people. And now it's kind of like I don't have that like imposter syndrome thing. But that was there for a long time. Like I fully admit that. I was like, for a lot of I was surprised that people actually wanted to do business with me because I just wasn't used to having successful sales for so many years in my podcasting journey. I was kind of conditioned to that response. But this makes a lot of sense. And I think with the execution of the discovery call, the real danger zone is it turning into a free coaching session. Like that's definitely
yeah.
the thing, like you said, where all of a sudden, not only like I've had it happen before, we booked 20 minutes and all of a sudden it turns into a 35-ish minute coaching session. They're, oh, but one more question. Oh, I know you got to go, but one more question. And like that starts to happen. So if we slip and something like that does start to happen, how do we reverse out of that? Like this is somebody that we do want to work with. They are a good fit, but we start going down into the coaching call road. What kind of language or backpedaling do we do to put the conversation back on track to what it's supposed to be?
I've had it happen as well where, I'm into a session and I'm like, "Oh, this is not going the way that I want it to go." And for me, it really comes down to saying, I'd love to be able to sit here and be able to offer this out, but unfortunately, I don't do free coaching calls. And so the minute I say that, people go, "Oh." And with you can redirect them to, I have this great sign up. If you want to get an audit, you can jump on and sign here. If you'd like this for free, I have this resource for free. I have this, but this is really a conversation for us to talk about how I can help you as a paid client, because my free resources are fantastic, but they're only going to get you so far. So if you're looking for an opportunity, again, to be able to work with me, let's have that conversation now. Let's dive into that where I can really tell you how I can help you in a more robust manner than just answering questions that you can find the resources to other places from there as well. That's how I would shut it down. And so you're being kind and being polite about it, but leading with that, I don't do free coaching calls. Most people are going to respect that off the bat. They're going to go, "Oh, okay." And again, like making sure that how you set that process up from the start is going to make sure that you're backing up what you're saying to them face to face. So if you say in there, just to be clear, this isn't a free coaching call. This is a session to talk about how I can help you with my paid offers. Say it. Don't be afraid to say it. I think we need to be more forthright and honest about the fact that we're business owners and we've had this idea shoved in our head for so long that the only way we can get people to work with us is giving free stuff all the time. We don't need to give everything we do away for free. Like you need to charge at some point, and you have the right to say, "Sorry, here's the free stuff. If you want the paid stuff, you gotta pay." That's just the way it is.
That's why it's called paid stuff.
Pay stuff. Yes.
So you are giving us permission, in fact, to put something in the onboarding that kind of defines the discovery call. Like this is what it is and this is what it isn't. And then kind of I'm big on these I acknowledge, check yes or no statements now. Like I do this a lot if I'm going to go like Instagram live with somebody it's more like jokey, but I still use it. I'm like, I acknowledge that if I no show Adam on my Instagram live, I will have 1,000 years of bad podcast downloads. Yes or no. And so, that like little I acknowledge statements like that, I feel like that can be pretty valuable as a last question on there where they've already talked about their pain points and, whatever else, all the information that we're gathering from them. And then I acknowledge, I know exactly what I'm signing up for. And then, like you said, I've got podcast audits. And if people want to talk to me within the next week, they can do a discovery call, but this is the format. If they want to do a free coaching session, they can do a podcast audit, but they're probably gonna have to wait 8 to 12 weeks to do that. So, but that's available as well. So do you feel like I'm going down the right path as far as just clearly defining that in the onboarding?
I do, because I also think from the point of view of, if somebody isn't going to respect your boundaries on off your help, your free help, do you really want them as a client? Like, do we really want to work with people who don't respect what we have to offer? And so being clear and intentional right from the start and using that as a qualifying question, again, people who are like, "No, like I'm not going to agree to, show up on time." they're not going to show up on time when you actually work with them. And it's
Right.
going to drive you nuts, and you're going to be more and more frustrated. And then the relationship will break down, and they're not going to get success, and you won't get paid or a testimonial. So curb it right from the beginning. I think it's a really good strategy, and most people should do it.
Okay. Good. All right. Now, kind of getting back and diving a little bit deeper into the moment of sale, like when that magical moment starts to happen and you can feel like this is going really well. It seems like they didn't, maybe you've brought up the pricing and no big deal there. Everything's is cool. I give us some tips on, you've got the football, it's on the 5 yard line, and you just need to go score a freaking touchdown. Sometimes we need to ask, like, are we ready to get started? Like, what are a few options for statements? Like, are we ready to get started? Or do you want to think about it? Like, what are some ending moments of closing the sale or transitioning into let's think about it? Give me some of your best stuff there.
So the transitioning part for me, one of the things that I tend to use to help people kind of tip over that edge or to be able to really make sure this is the right thing for them is I offer it, would you like to speak to some people I work with? I make that offer on every single call that I'm on. Sometimes I don't need to. Sometimes like they'll be like, just send me the link. I'm good. And I'm like, okay, yay. Like this is, that was fun.
That's the best. Yeah.
That's the best, right? But the ones where people need a little bit more time to think, hook them up, like set them up to talk to people, let them have a conversation with other people you've worked with, because that social proof is the number one reason why someone is going to actually end up working with you, is because if someone else got results that they want and they sit there and say, you need to work with Adam, he's like the best person in the entire world. And I'll tell, there's no one else you should work with but him. It's pretty believable when people say that about you. So having some really good testimonials in your back pocket from, a couple clients you work with or have worked with who will agree to be like, yep, I'll jump on a little Zoom, or I can, do a little voice messaging back and forth on Instagram, something like that. Absolutely do that. You should also be following up with an email. That's the other piece that I would say. If they're not closing directly on the phone with you or on Zoom with you, follow up with an email. And I always have one that's pre-written. It's like almost like a little template that's there, and I'll go in and customize it for the person that's I just spoke to, and I'll send it out. The link will be in it to sign up. It'll be a thank you. Do you have any questions? I've connected them already with the people they need to talk about. And in it, again, I've given the deadline. I am going to follow up with you on this date if I haven't heard from you before then. And it takes some chasing sometimes. Like there will be people who are like, yeah, I definitely want to sign up. I'm like, but you haven't. So you need to stay on that. And that's, I think, where most of us drop the ball is if we can't close someone like when we're face to face, we don't do the close after the fact. We're like, oh, we lost the sale. We're never going to get it back. Instead of being like, no, they just might need a little bit more time. And so staying top of mind, making sure that you have a really good tracking system in place in your business. Like if you're not using a CRM, get one, even if it's just a spreadsheet, but having those things in there to say, I emailed them on this date. I need to follow up on this date, put it in your calendar. So your calendar tells you, stay on top until you get a yes or a no. It's the maybes we're trying to get rid of. All sales are destroyed by maybes. No's are fine. That's totally fine if you get a no. It's just making way for more yeses. But don't let the maybes sit there. Get rid of them.
Yeah. I 100% agree on that because like the maybes are the people that are the tire kickers and like they just don't have that burning desire behind, and that's okay. Like
Yeah.
me personally, I know you feel this way too. We don't want somebody that's not ready to rock to hire us because then that's not going to be a good result. If they're kind of the timing's bad or they're not all the way into it, they don't get it. Like I had to do a $2,000 refund a couple of weeks ago, and I was just like, all right, it's wasn't a good fit. And they realized it right away, and I realized it right away. I was like, all right, cool. We're just gonna scrap that idea and go back to the drawing board. Next person up, next client up. So
Yeah.
yeah, we don't want our time to be wasted because our time's our most precious resource. And that client could be, subbed out and a new client can be subbed in. That's just amazing. They turn it into an amazing testimonial and that leads to more great clients because they want to be just like that person. So yeah, I think that's a very important statement. I hope that's sunk into all the pod pals listening out there.
I think that what's also important to remember in that is it's okay to tell people again when we're on a call with them who we help the best. And so like I'm really honest about it when I'm like I work with very A types. Like I work with me's. That's what I am, right? And I people who are really really good at what they do and they really want to get better at it and they're learning trying to learn new skills and grow their business and they're willing to show up and do the work. And that's okay if you're not that person because there's lots of other coaches out there or people, support you can get that will help you in a better way. I wouldn't be the right fit for someone who's kind of like, well, I don't think I really want to sell when I'm coming in and being like, this is all I teach is how to sell pretty much. It's not the right fit. So knowing who you are and being really true to yourself will bring the right people into your world. And it's going to make those calls a lot easier for you moving forward because people will gravitate to you. It's almost like you don't need to work as hard to make the close happen because people are like, oh, I found my space. Like it's like when I met you, I found my space. I was like, this is the person who's meant to help me get my show where I need my show to go. I'm done looking. And that's what we want to have happen when we're doing what we do for a living.
Nice. Okay. I've got one more question. And then if we missed anything, of course, I want you to just add in the special Jan herbs and spices here. So people ask me about sales conversion rate a lot. Can you give us it's kind of like the podcast numbers I kick out. I'm like, you're at the top 50% if you do this, top 20% if you do that. It helps just to have little benchmarks. So like, what is a good starting conversion rate? Like you do 10 discovery calls. How many should we shoot for when we're just getting started to, convert into business? And then what's kind of like that mid-range? I'm starting to get decent at this and things are going right. And then what's an excellent closing rate that you think everybody should kind of strive to get to?
Oh, conversion rates. So I would say that it's always going to be a little dependent on your area of expertise and also dependent on how comfortable you are selling. So I could say something like, a really good conversion rate is going to be in the zone of like 80 to 90% of your calls, you should be closing them. But if you're still learning this and you're like, I'm only closing 20%, yay, you're doing 20%. That's amazing. So I think it's going to be, again, the bar needs to be set on where people are within their own journey. But if you need some numbers, I would say very definitely looking at starting point, try to aim to see if you can get in the 30-ish zone when you're just starting out on these calls. And I would also say if people are saying no to you, find out why. Ask the why behind that because you can't get better at what you do if you don't get the data on understanding what you need to fix. So that would be my first thing. You're kind of mid-range. If you're doing a 50%er on there, like nailing it. Great job on you. If you get 50% of your calls, you're closing them, super. If you are coming in and you're in that like 80%, 90% zone or higher, you're a rock star. Like you're in that like little weird world of those of us who are just like as I always joke, hold my purse, I'm going to work the room. Like I love to sell. So my rate sits in the 90 to 100% range because I've been doing this for so many years. But it's, if you can get in the 70, 80 zone, you're doing really, really well. So that would be kind of where I would say with that. But again, if you're also saying I may not be closing a lot of people, but every person I'm closing are the right fit, that matters too. So don't just always mark your success based off of like numbers. It also is going to be based off of who you're bringing into your world because it doesn't really matter, right, Adam? If you closed 100% of the people who were on the phone with you and you get in and you start working with them and you're refunding 80% of them, your close rate doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you're getting the right ones in the door too.
Yeah. So I love this. Two things. Hold my purse, Jan.
Hold my purse.
I'm going to bust that out. The first time we're together, like Podfest in real life, it's going to randomly have like, Jan, hold my purse.
Hold my purse.
I'll go jump up on stage.
Yeah.
So one thing, if you're closing 80 to 90%, I would suggest slightly raising your prices. I'm like, that's probably a zone where you could like, let's look at making some more cash here because you're doing really well. I think if you're below 30% for an extended period of time, you may not suck at selling. You may just be getting the wrong. Maybe the onboarding that would be my main culprit. I'd be like, the wrong people are finding this thing, and the messaging needs to be corrected a little bit to get better fit that are coming in there.
Pricing. So, yeah, there's something there, right? Like especially if you are an expert at what you do and you have proven clout behind you and you can't get people to convert, it isn't you at that point. It's something else with the offer. So that's where you need to kind of dive in and look at that, all the boring things that everyone skips over. What are the foundations that you have with your business that you need to fix?
Yep. Yep, I concur. All right. Did we miss anything in this conversation, Jan? Is there anything that you feel like we definitely need to cover? Or I felt like it's pretty robust. I feel pretty good about this
I think
myself.
it was a good conversation. I don't think there really is too much that we missed on it. I would just say the only thing really to think about again is enjoy the process. And that is selling is a really enjoyable process when it's done in a way that's authentic and isn't using those bro marketing tactics that you and I love to make fun of so much. Like when you focus on showing up and serving the way that you show up and serve Adam and the way that I show up and serve with my community as well. We're here because we care. We really care about the people we work with, and we have a skill set that we just want to be able to help, you know, and but we also deserve to get paid for what we know.
Yeah.
So I think kind of piecing all those things together, it just makes the entire sales process a lot easier. We're just here to serve. That's all we're doing.
Here to serve.
Here to serve.
I had somebody last week that ended up hiring me to do some business with, and she said, "You know, Adam, I got to tell you something. I normally spend a lot longer thinking about it when I'm spending this amount of money, but I just feel really comfortable and I'm just really excited to work with you." And I was like, that's a great compliment. Like that was, I just took that as such an awesome compliment. And it made me just even more fired up to be your coach. I was like, you're going to get extra Adam Mojo coming at you. Cause that made me feel really good. And so selling doesn't have to be sleazy and pushy and whatever. Like we can just be our unique, authentic selves and just have direct conversations like this in these discovery sessions, like Jan has outlined for us. And we can get connected with awesome people that we can actually impact at a deeper level than just being a podcast listener. When somebody, hands over that credit card and they pay me money, I take, shit gets serious. I'm like, all right, now I'm going to deliver. So I know Jan feels the same way. So Jan, one of my favorite people here. So make sure you all follow Jan on the gram, follow her wherever she goes, check out No BS Business School. Jan, give them all the things. Where do you want them to go?
So No BS Business School is my podcast, and you can hang out there. You can learn all about how Adam helped me rebrand it and get it to where it is now. So there's lots of episodes about that. I talk about Adam as much as he talks about me on my show. So it's a mutual, we're besties. You can also follow me on Instagram at janditchfield.co, and you can find me on the web at janditchfield.co as well.
All right. I can't give Jan a higher endorsement or like really get into her world. I know a lot of you already are there, but is worth your time. She's got great stuff. All of her free challenges you should be paying for. Like every time you do a Jan challenge, you can be like, I should have paid for that. It's really good. So get into her world. You will not regret it. You can send me a thank you card in the mail. All right, Jan, I just really appreciate you. Thanks for coming on again.
Thank you so much, Adam.
All right, everybody. Hopefully you are ready to get out there and do some discovery sessions, get them dialed in, get the right people in front of you, and start making some meaningful income with the right fit clients. And with that, I'm going to close this out, sending you off into the world, wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. We'll see you next time.